Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Outside the Playbook. I'm Josh. We got Odom coming to run it back one more game before we get into any content. All right. If you clicked on this video to hear some dope conversation about the upcoming NBA season, I need you to do two things. One, give this video a like. Two, subscribe to my channel. And because you're sitting here watching me still, the survey says that's one more for the good guys. What's going on, Doom?
Everything going all right, my brother. How you doing?
I'm all right, man. It's Sunday. I had a rough Saturday, but we'll save that for another day. Yeah, I'm still hurt, but like I said, you'll see when I upload the content. You'll see.
I definitely can't wait, man. Look, these IRLs is about to get real out here.
Yeah, it got real for me. I say that it got real for me already. Today we're gonna talk about the Atlantic Division.
Okay.
Obviously we're gonna touch on Brooklyn. New York is back into the fold of the playoffs. Happy for them. But we're gonna start off with Toronto, and they lost Kyle Lowry. Year removed from losing Kawhi. Year before that, they lose DeRozan. So pretty much they're starting to lose all relevancy at this point. You see that they lost Lowry, Stanley Johnson, Rodney Hood, Bembry, Aaron Baines, a lot of the guys that basically kept them afloat last season.
Yeah.
They bring in a ton of new faces. I mean, I see at least about 8 or 9 new faces. None of them I'm going to mention at all. Maybe Goran Dragic, but he's only going to be there for time being.
Right.
He's just a rental, you know. My thought on this is, with Kyle Lowry gone, Siakam, he's obviously unhappy with the organization. You do give Van Vliet a new contract, but do you think they should just go ahead and scrap it? Let's start over. I mean, you have one of the best GMs in the game, or president, should I say, in Masai Ujiri.
Mm-hmm.
So we have confidence that he can rebuild the team and get us back to the playoffs and so on and so forth. I mean, I think they should just tear it down and start over. How do you feel about Toronto?
I think so, man. When it comes to Siakam, man, I think it's over. You know what I mean? He had a good run. I think he didn't elevate to where they thought he would elevate to. Where, you know, like I think after Kawhi left, I think the upside in him, they thought, you know, it'd be like a secure kind of Kawhi 2.0 kind of deal.
Yeah.
And I don't think it went anywhere, especially I would say with him offensively, but yeah, like I think so, honestly. I wanted to hold you up.
It's like the poor image of giving somebody that big contract, and then they don't perform, they don't live up to it, and then you hear about there's turmoil in the locker room. He has frustrations with the coach. Him and coach have an explosive argument where players had to restrain each of them.
Right.
You know, it gets uglier and uglier as it goes along, but now you look like you're a fraud. That's basically how you look, because you don't have the blanket of Kyle Lowry, DeRozan, and Leonard there.
Yeah.
I mean, let alone, not even Valanciunas, because he was a big part of that team. And then the following year with Kawhi came Marc Gasol. So you have a lot of talent around you that made you look in the public eye, made you look better than what you actually were. So now you're just an overpaid player that they got to move you and your contract. I see him possibly being in the deal with Goran Dragic that could find both of them end up in Dallas, because, you know, we know about Dragic and his relationship with Luka Doncic. So maybe we see a situation where Mark's wanting to spend a little bit more than he should, send out Porzingis, get in 2 valuable players who can co-star, but not be in a lead role as Siakam was. I think the opposite can be said of New York. They're on an absolute uptrend, in my opinion. You found that, in contrast to Siakam, they gave the contract to Julius Randle that nobody else in the league was going to give him.
Right.
The contract that he wanted from New Orleans when he was there with AD, that could have been a good tandem. If you pay Julius Randle, maybe Him and AD could have been a nice tandem. You keep Rondo, you keep Drew Holiday,
True.
and see what that turns into, down the line.
Yeah.
With New York, I mean, you add back in D Rose, but you have Kemba Walker as your starting point guard, and you bring in Evan Fournier. He didn't have a good stint in Boston, but I mean, I like what New York has done over the last couple of years. You don't see them really losing anybody important. I mean,
and I'm happy about that, man. Not to interrupt. I'm happy about that because like so many times. I mean, even like the last episode we talked about teams constantly switching. Man, that's becoming such a thing where there's a give and take in terms of like switching too much and not switching enough. You know what I mean? Like you might keep players for a certain amount of time where they're no good, and then you might have a star or two, and you keep constantly switching players for years on end where they don't get a chance to have chemistry. They don't give a chance to have some sort of camaraderie or know their roles per se.
To develop together. Yeah. So I mean, you lose Elfrid Payton, Frank Ntilikina. I like that because you keep Derrick Rose, obviously, but I like how they had the 2-guard lineup with Rose and Quickly. I like them both coming off the bench behind, because obviously, I mean, I would assume Evan Fournier is going to start at the 2-guard next to Kemba Walker.
Right.
I mean, that's a decent tandem, but it's like you get a complete change of pace, and they both have similar styles, but they have a pretty decent basketball IQ to totally turn the game in their favor in a lot of situations.
Definitely.
Derrick Rose, he's a vet, but he's a savvy vet now. He can still get to his spots, but I see quickly, pun intended, quickly learning how to run the offense the way D Rose has done it. So I mean, I like New York, but do you think, I mean, I don't think they'll challenge Brooklyn. Okay, I don't think they'll beat Brooklyn and unseat them at all. But do we see the return of Cardiac Kemba in New York, and that being enough for a second or maybe a deeper playoff run?
The same Cardiac Kemba from the Hornets? No. I think a more mature if Cardiac Kemba, a way more mature Cardiac Kemba, like understanding where these guys just came from last year, the mentality that they are in, how locked in that they're in. Last year they were talking about how the practices are. They were talking about, they were really putting it out there as far as like what New York is aiming to try to do, for the next decade, whatever the case may be, given, their reputation since God knows how long. So like,
well, look at who they got at the helm. You got Tom Thibodeau. He's bringing that mentality that he had in Chicago.
Yep.
The mentality that obviously they didn't want in Minnesota.
Right.
So basically, he took them from Chicago to Minnesota, told Taj Gibson, Derrick Rose, Luol Deng, Joakim Noah, said, y'all not wanted here. So he picked them all up, took them to New York, and they appreciate it. So
for sure.
I mean, like you said, good point. A more mature Kemba, understanding of where they are, where they're going, where they were. Yeah. He doesn't have to come in and be the type of player that Boston wanted him to be.
Exactly.
He needs to come in and be the type of player that can support and elevate the guys that they're paying to be the stars now.
Exactly.
RJ Barrett is going to have it's not necessarily coming out year. I mean, I think last season he performed extremely well, a lot better than a lot of people thought he would, considering his rookie season. I think he's on the upward trend too. So now you have a potential 1-2 punch that you can have in place for the next 5 or 6 years if they avoid situations like the Philadelphia 76ers.
Right. And honestly, I just feel like certain players, kind of how you said, to go back a little bit, well, not really to go back, but like a Pascal Siakam, like those guys, are better co-stars than stars. And I think that, with the hype coming into the draft, with RJ and those guys, man, like, now you have these pieces and everybody's kind of, the pressure is off of you pretty much is what I'm saying. Yeah. So now you're able to actually grow on your own terms instead of like everybody just watching you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
And then, to be fair, he came in with the oppression or the pressure of, one, being Zion's teammate at Duke, and two, entering into the same draft with Zion. So, I mean, not everybody, they're not really looking at what you're doing. We're looking at what you're doing in comparison to him.
Exactly.
So, in all fairness, he probably had a decent rookie season, just not like Zion.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I think he's going to have another good season, him and Randall. I think they got a good future together, especially, like I said, with D Rose and the bench that they got. I like him a lot. I like him a lot.
I can't wait to see Quickly, man. I love that dude.
He's so nice.
He's
so nice. His floater is ridiculous.
Man.
His float game is crazy. It's not a lot of young dudes. Think about that. It's not a lot of young dudes that utilize that too.
Yeah, that's true.
And like, it's an old saying that my uncle used to say, but like when he throw it up there, he trying to hit Jesus in the foot.
Yo, shout out to your uncle.
He trying to put it up there, man.
Oh,
he's trying to put it way up there.
I feel that. I'm gonna have to use that, man. Hey, Unc, I'm gonna have to steal that one, yo. I like that. No, that's the truth, man. That's the truth. I love it.
Looking at Boston, I'm just disappointed in this team, bro. It's one of those. You can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make him drink.
Yeah.
How do you get to the conference finals as many times as they have? I think since Jason Tatum's been in the league, he's only missed the conference finals once or twice.
Yeah.
He's been in the league 4 or 5 years or something like that. I mean, he's been there almost every season. You lose Tristan Thompson. Obviously, we touched on Kemba. Ojale, we lose him to Milwaukee. Evan Fournier, Taco Fall, Edwards. I liked Edwards when he was in college. I don't think he got a fair shake.
Neither do I. Boston. I'm glad you said that because I was just about to say that.
because Kemba, they were still hoping cardiac Kemba was in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's like they kept forcing the issue instead of every now and then. Look, Kemba might not have it tonight. Let Edwards get a shot at it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's not like you just giving his spot away completely, but you spotting somebody else minutes to see what you got just in case you end up trading Kemba.
Exactly.
Which was on the table for a long time.
Exactly.
So the fact that you went ahead and traded him and you lose out on the investment of Edwards, I just think, Danny Ainge was right to let that job go after a while. You go back and you basically bring back a couple of guys that you let go. You let go of Al Horford. You let go of Enes Kanter. You bring both of those guys back. Josh Richardson was an important pickup. We talked about that before we went live, but I think he's one of those guys that can do a little bit of everything, but he hasn't really found his space to do that one thing he can be effective and dominant. Like, a lot of guys have a reason they get paid. Duncan Robinson gets paid to shoot.
Right.
Avery Bradley gets on teams because he's a lockdown defender.
Yeah.
Still waiting to find out what Jay Rich has in store, like what he has to offer a championship level team.
Right.
And Dennis Schroeder fumbled the bag. So how do you feel about Boston?
I think Boston. I'm still tripping off that too, man. Like, that's a crazy bag of fumble. Boston, man. My goodness. Mid-tier team, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I think they still have a chance in terms of making it to the top of the East. But like, as far as one of the best teams for sure, obviously. But I think people are like getting impatient and trying to figure out what exactly, like, when are you gonna, you keep it in there, keep it on. We waiting this to really start it up and take off. You know what I mean? We thought, after that first year with Jason Tatum and the squad, man, that really surprised everybody. And just like anything, when those surprises come, expectations come along with it. You know what I'm saying? So
to go along with your kid analogy, let's go with that.
Okay.
It's wintertime, all right? Your heat don't work in your car. You start the car up in the morning, you're just sitting in your car, waiting for the car to heat up, wait for the windows to frost. Now you late for work, right? That's what I see with Boston. And the interesting situation here is Boston and Philly's fates are intertwined.
Yeah.
Both originally a couple years ago, because we're going to talk about why. And then even more so now because the opportunity that presents itself. So one question I had about Boston was, is Tatum and Brown, in my opinion, I don't think they're good enough to compete in the Eastern Conference as those two together.
Okay.
Do you move Brown for Bradley Beal, or do you move Brown for Ben Simmons? Now, Ben Simmons is the only one of those two guys on the block right now. In my mind, I pull the trigger on that. If I'm Philly and if I'm Boston. You get Ben Simmons out of there, get bad energy out there. You bring in a dude with a chip on his shoulder, two-way player, somebody to get buckets, and you pair him. Now, that's the thing, too. You're not just bringing in Jaylen Brown to be your second best player. You're bringing him in to be another option because you have Joel Embiid and you have Tobias Harris that can get the job done, but you're adding another guy. That's just more firepower. But like I said, he's a two-way player. If I'm Philly, I'm bothered by the notion that we could see a Ben Simmons and Jason Tatum pairing, considering the fact is I traded up and drafted Markelle Fultz when Jason Tatum was available. In what world is there? Because, I mean, I've seen those draft rooms. There's got to be more than 8 or 9 people in those rooms having a conversation about who they're picking, who they're drafting, what this means for the team, the roster structure, organization, building around their side, the whole 9 yards. And on what draft board do you say that Markelle Fultz is valued more than Jason Tatum and what he brings to the table for our organization? You have Embiid, you had Simmons. If you get Tatum, at this moment in time, all three are max players. All three are all-star caliber, or all three of them are all-stars.
Definitely.
And it's hard to think that they don't get to the NBA Finals with those three
seriously
in tow.
Nah, you're right. You're right. And you know, the biggest thing with that type of stuff, man, it's you know, with the draft, you know, where you were talking about with the draft board and everything like that, or even just organizations as a whole, dude, like, we're trying to win big out of this. We don't want to like feel like we evened up just by a switch. Yeah. You know what I mean? So in terms of Brown being switched for either guy, to me, it becomes an even trade to a degree, just because you know, defense went to both sides. The chance for Jason Tatum to have the ball more becomes a thing, you know, where you don't have to, I don't want to say like share the ball, but you know, they have an understanding to some degree on like who gets what and when. And sometimes that may be a problem, you know what I mean? 50-50 might sometimes need to be 70-30.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? Depending on what's going on, you know, and especially because of the fact that they look at Jason Tatum as that one.
He's a problem. He's for sure a problem. Yeah. My issue with the Celtics is that you ever notice like they're always right there, but like it's like they keep taking the same test over and over and over again, but they keep giving the same answers expecting to pass.
Yeah.
Like Miami, we seen it when they was in the conference finals versus them. Late game execution. LeBron, game 7, you're at home. Late game execution. I mean, time and time. I mean, even before when they played, when Boston played Cleveland, late game execution is always the same problem that they can never answer.
Right.
So if they can get somebody in there that can, first of all, that has a lot more maturity. That can, like Chris Paul is to Devin Booker, who is that to who is that to Jason Tatum? That's what I mean to say.
It could.
So I think to get him over that hump, that's what they need to make happen. In terms of the 76ers, where did the process go wrong? Where do you think the train went off the tracks?
I think communication. And I'm talking about from an organization standpoint.
Okay.
I think, one, with you and I on a Miami side of the game, I've heard Jimmy talk about his experience when they spoke on the obvious jump shot situation with Ben. For years we've heard Embiid kind of beat around the bush on honesty. And then now we just saw with Mr. Coach himself, felt like I don't know what Ben Simmons is. And then now it's like, hey, sorry about what I said. Can you come back, man? Look, it's there. You said what you really felt.
I made this post the other day. I said, Jimmy tried to tell y'all the truth about Chicago.
Yeah.
Didn't listen. Tried to tell y'all about Minnesota. Didn't listen. Tried to tell y'all about Philly. 2 or 3 years later, Jimmy Butler's been to the NBA Finals, got him another max contract.
Come on, man.
And that organization has done everything they can to put another championship run together. Jimmy's 3-0 in my opinion.
Not to mention with people that you didn't even care about at that time. And probably and being honest, along with the trades and the pickups, people you still kind of don't care about.
Yeah.
So what does that say about what Jimmy is saying and what you're not saying? If you have a problem with him wanting to win, you know what I mean, and getting
which is literally all he wanted.
Yeah. And take the same energy. I feel this way. Take that same energy with every player as opposed to certain players. You take Jimmy's mentality and things that he said, and it was Kobe or Bron or somebody else. Then it's do whatever it takes to win. You know what I mean? And then if it's Jimmy saying it, it's you know how that goes, man. If somebody you don't like say a joke, it's not funny. Somebody you cool with say it is they're Dave Chappelle.
Oh yeah, facts. Let's look at it like this. If I'm Andrew Wiggins, I'm sick because I'm complaining because we had a practice and Jimmy Butler hurt my feelings.
Come on, man.
I get traded to Golden State and Draymond Green calls me a B word on national television.
Come on, man.
So I don't understand. So all of a sudden he wants to be a part of a championship culture, have an opportunity to win this, that, and the other thing. Come on, man.
Right.
You just didn't like the fact that he told you the truth.
Yeah.
That's plain and simple. You didn't like the fact. Cat, he's still talking. He made a reference to it the other day. A little sly remark, but y'all still at the bottom of the conference and you got max dollars.
Dude.
So you exposed yourself to what he was saying. We already know we know what you were.
Yeah.
Everybody does. That's one thing that bothers me about Philly though.
Yeah.
Because if you bring back Jimmy Butler, I know from watching interviews and stuff, JJ and Jimmy, they have a close relationship. So it's a good chance that one comes back, the other one does too.
Yeah.
And for several years when he was with the Clippers, JJ Redick, he's one of the league leaders in points scored in the first quarter. He always known for hot starts. Mm-hmm. That's how Philly was using him.
Right.
Put the ball in Jimmy's hands late in games as well. Simmons didn't like it. Okay, but how can you play a guy that doesn't want to shoot, doesn't have a jump shot to begin with at the time? Mm-hmm. And I've watched several games where whoever's guarding him late in the game is down in the painted area, guarding Joel Embiid with somebody else. Mm-hmm. I think LeBron was doing that.
Yeah.
Come on now. you have to be aware of what you are and what you're not and find a way to contribute.
Right.
I'm okay with Ben Simmons being a power forward versus a point guard late in game situations.
Mm-hmm.
He's not, but he doesn't want to hear you tell him the truth that he's not a good late game point guard.
Right.
That makes things harder on Embiid from the sense that, okay, how am I going to get my touches late in games? How can I have pressure taken off of me so I can perform late in games, get the wide open shots, post ups, this and that and the other thing? I think Philly's biggest issue started with the Jimmy Butler deal. Aside from, like I said, aside from the Tatum situation, the Jimmy Butler situation should have been addressed with not the coddling that we seen to Simmons. Embiid, obviously, it looks like he understood where Jimmy was coming from. Everybody else did.
Yeah.
Got Simmons, Wiggins, all those guys in the same bunch that seems to have taken offense to somebody telling him what it really was.
And also, I want to point out, as well as the communication with the organization, man. I do want to put blame on Joel Embiid a little bit as well, man. In terms of this process, man. Look, limited minutes. I don't have the stat for it, but he's fallen down so many times. The fact that it angers me, it irritates me, and I love him as a player. It irritates me when
cue that Dolly McClurkin music.
Come on, man. Like, seriously, dude. Seriously. Like, he could have, look, if he had a Converse deal, he would have been D-Wade part 2 in terms of the fall down 8, get back up 9,
7 times,
7.
get up,
Yes, bro. Like, dude,
yeah.
it's unbelievable, man. The amount of times that you try to get a foul, like people lose track of this, like, Reggie Miller era where they had to really, like, clamp down on people flopping or doing things like that. For somebody who plays every other game and is able to and is able to put up nonstop, monster numbers, don't get me wrong.
Dominant.
Keep that same energy. Why does it have to be after, like, every 5 to 10 games that Shaq got to talk to you on TNT or Chuck or somebody got to say something, and then the next game you put up 45 and 15? Like, it does not have to
see you for 2 more games.
Come on, bro. It does not have to be that way. And I'm not saying everybody has to be a vocal leader or something like that, but you did, bro. Like, you didn't want to step on anybody's toes in terms of saying anything and being honest with your boy Ben. You didn't. And then you sat there and watched, watch I'm not even gonna say his name, man. I'll say it. Doc Rivers, man. You sat there and watched Doc. You know what I'm saying? You teamed up with Doc and wasn't keeping it real about, obviously, look, it's a mental thing that's going on with Ben's jumper. Cool. Fine and dandy, bro. He'll get it right. You go talk to somebody, but you had to keep it real with somebody like that. And vice versa. Not only that,
somebody commented on it. So shout out to Quan if he watched this episode.
Shout out Quan.
But he did touch on that. He said, hey, Doc and Embiid did go in the media and blasted Ben Simmons.
Come on, man.
It's quite possibly that conversation was not had behind closed doors. So they, out of frustration of losing, they just threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
So I get that. I wouldn't be cool with it either. But I don't think if I'm in his shoes, I would not have given them that much ammo. So it's like...
No, I agree with that too. That's why I said two. It's communication and being honest and upfront, and it's that jump shot, bro.
Yeah, because that's the frustrating thing about it. Don't post it on social media. I don't care about that. I'm not paying you to hit jumpers in an empty gym. I'm not paying you to hit jumpers in an open pickup run.
Exactly.
I'm paying you to hit jumpers so we can get a championship.
Exactly.
That's what we're not gonna do. So, hey, if you want to leave, that's cool. Just know that wherever you go, they need you to perform offensively as well. Speaking of performing offensively, the Brooklyn Nets. Probably the most lethal offense we're ever going to see.
Man.
James Harden, Kyrie, KD. I guess you can include Blake Griffin in there. I mean, He's not the BG of old, but he can still get the job done as a serviceable big man. You add in Paul Millsap, you bring in Patty Mills. I like the way they're outside of the big three. I like the way the roster looks right now.
Mm-hmm.
They gave them quite a bit more help. I do wish they would have found a way to keep either Jared Allen or Spencer Dinwiddie, because I mean, that would have been a lock for a championship.
Oh, man.
That would have been under lock and key. You're telling me
I love
Jared
Spencer
Allen,
Dinwiddie.
KD, BG, James, and Kyrie?
Come on, man. We talking about an unselfish Jared Allen, bro.
Yes. And another thing, too, people don't understand how important it is when you have lethal offensive players like that. You need somebody that's going to crash the boards.
Dude.
You need somebody that's going to be on the glass. Because let's say they have an off shooting night, because they're going to get their shots up.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine each of them getting like 17 plus every single night.
Yeah.
Let's say they have an off shooting night. You have Jared Allen and Blake Griffin down there cleaning up the glass. That's hard to beat.
It's hard.
It's very tough to beat. But there's a wrinkle in the situation. I'm not going to say the word, but because of the protocols, health and safety protocols in place, Kyrie Irving is choosing at this moment not to adhere to those protocols, causing him to possibly miss 41 home games for the Brooklyn Nets.
Right.
Let's say Kyrie chooses to hold fast to this, okay? One. Two-part question. You can answer both.
Okay.
One, do they have enough without Kyrie for half of the season to get the job done, to get a chip? Two, do you think that Kevin Durant and James Harden have the right to put a little bug in management's ear? Like, look, if he's not going to do it and we're trying to get a ring and this is the only thing that's stopping us, we might have to move him. And considering the person we just talked about, Ben Simmons, being available, their contracts are very similar, and that deal could be made. So do you, A, think they have enough without Kyrie to get a championship? B, do you move him?
First one, I think they do. I think they have enough. I think
really?
I feel like Paul Millsap helped out. I think Dinwiddie will help out in terms of that. Like just the spacing. The spacing, I think, actually like improved a little bit, honestly. And I'm saying that with these particular players that I pointed out, you know, obviously a Joe Harris and stuff like that.
Forgot about him.
They just people like you brought in people who understand their roles just off the bat, and that's kind of like we'll be going in terms of the Jared Allen situation and stuff like that. Even Dinwiddie, like he understood when it was time to get a bucket, and he understood when it was time to, you know, just be prepared for.
He was their Jamal Crawford.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a great wow. Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So I think they can still go all the way. And in terms of Kyrie, man, I mean, they're superstars and they can, but I wouldn't want them to. I don't want to go, you know, with my own personal preference in terms of like, you know, whether or not you should or shouldn't in terms of that situation. But I think that I don't think it slows them down. And personally, it's already unfair anyway when you look at it. I mean, look, you can't play home games, but if somebody else is in your same situation of choosing not to, can play as an away opponent, you know what I mean? So they already have it mixed up anyway. If I'm in Atlanta, perfect example. If I'm in Atlanta and I chose not to do it, not to take it, I can still go to Brooklyn and play, but Kyrie can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's so
you
know, and I also understand like the amount of pressure that they trying to put on guys and stuff like that. It's so tricky in terms of that. But I wouldn't. I think if they really, really understand the value of a Kyrie Irving, and what he brings to the table, to me personally, what he brings to the table, in terms of on the court and off the court, I think it's best to keep. I think it's best to leave it alone and just allow that man to, because I think also a move like that, staying by him, will change. I think will possibly change the situation and change the narrative on what's going on. It'll actually make them look less of the villain as much as people want them to be to a certain degree.
Yeah, and I agree with your assessment of the second question. A lot of it doesn't make sense, but how you look in the eye of the public, because the general consensus is, hey, get him out of here. That's all I was seeing on ESPN, everywhere, Fox Sports, blogs. That's all I was saying. Get rid of him. Yeah. I think by keeping him, you do build a reputation, for one, around the league. For two, you create a sense of trust between you and the other star players.
Exactly.
Because Kyrie doesn't even have the most pull on the team. KD's under contract, but James Harden is still technically only under contract for this season. You want him to re-sign. So now it's a chess match, because you think you only have dealings with one, but there's repercussions to everybody else on the team. Because also, I mean, depending on how he performs this year, Blake Griffin's contract is up after this year too, I believe. So it's a lot of moving parts. You can also push hey, can we get some representation in the NBPA to kind of go forth on our behalf to say look, this isn't necessarily right. We shouldn't have to make the decision under duress. Is there something that can be done to where we don't have to miss this amount of games? I mean, if it comes down to it, would you consider switching states for just a season, until everything gets sorted out? Which we've seen the Toronto Raptors. They came from Toronto down to Tampa. There's another option if you really want to stick by him and show him you got his back and play for a championship, but also make sure he's able to still compete. That's the type of thing you need to consider. But in no way, shape, or form do I think that putting KD, James, and Kyrie on the floor, is there a lot of teams that can beat them? No. But this is a biased opinion, and this is going to segue into the next episode. If I'm KD and James Harden, and I look across and I see Jimmy, Kyle, PJ, Morris Twin, Bam, that's a lot. As the term they've been using, that's a lot of dogs over there. That's a lot of dogs.
Facts.
And they bite too.
Facts.
And they bite too. So, I mean, looking across the Milwaukee, Giannis he got a championship, and he's creating that mentality that was last year, not this year. I got more work to do. That's a dangerous individual to handle. I mean, I'm not worried about really anybody else. I'm not worried about Philly because we don't know what's going to happen. Not worried about Boston. Not really focused on New York.
Nah.
But the two main problems I see if I'm Brooklyn, I don't want to see Miami in a 7-game series, and I don't want to see Milwaukee again either.
Right.
Because, like I said, if you don't have Kyrie, that's grown man problems you got to deal with.
Seriously. I agree with that, man. It's so weird with everything that's going on, man. It's in terms of narratives, and not to kind of veer off on that too much, but I just honestly feel like if they hang on and they stick by this dude, it'll definitely change things up. And like you said, man, you just brought up the Toronto situation. You have the power to do whatever it is that you want to do to make sure everything is accommodated. You know what I mean? Whether you choose or not to do so, says a lot about the respect and how you feel about a particular person. And the biggest thing about it is, and we saw it firsthand with KD when he was with the Warriors, you're able to take somebody like a Draymond Green and try to force him to apologize or suspend them and things of that nature. And they said it in their interview. Look, I saw what KD said, I saw what they did to you. To keep me there, to make me feel happy, they did you dirty. You part of the family more than I am. I'm out of here. Because the love won't be reciprocated either way. And it'll be the same thing for the Nets. It's guaranteed. If you go against this man in terms of these things, I know everybody has their own opinions on how they feel about that whole thing. I ain't gonna say the word, but if you don't stick by this man in terms of this and choice and things of that nature, it's not gonna be good, man. And the problem is with these owners is they don't understand that these guys, we're in that era where these brothers are sticking together in terms of they're not afraid to say how they really feel about something, or they're not afraid to stand on something. Period. And I think they'll do that, and it'll force your hand because of the fact that, like, that money is on the line, dude. Like you just said, if we all here and we all feel the same way, and you're trying to convince me to go against it, it's gonna work. It's not gonna work in your favor in terms of an ownership.
Yeah. To wrap up, something I didn't think about till literally after I made the comment about location. First off, New York, the Knicks don't have the same issue.
Right.
2, you switched your team from New Jersey to Brooklyn. Who says that for a season you can't go back?
I mean,
hey,
it's only a few miles away, right?
Yeah, man. But hey, like the survey says, that's one more for the good guys.
Exactly.
One more for the good guys.